On enchaîne avec les AI Startup Founder and Leader Talks. Et je souhaite la bienvenue à Anis Bennaceur, co-founder and CEO de Attention.com. Et puis Koutheir Cherni, CEO and founder Guitar. Et Janice, ensuite, on accueillera Aziz Hanafi, founder and CEO de Nour AI. Puis Asma Basli, co-founder de Orb. Et Nour Ghalia Abba, CEO de DigiHealth. نبدأ بأنيس.
Merci, Yash. Aslema, bonjour à tous. I'm going to do this one in English, actually. So, I'm Anis Bennaceur. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Attention. I'm based in New York, and our company is in New York. So, one thing that I like to say is that CEO actually stands for customers, employees, and owners. And so, this is where founders should spend all of their time. And so I'm going to talk about how to get customers in the US, the best employees in the US, and the best investors in the US in an AI native world. Great. I'm going to tell you who we are first as a business. So our mission is extremely simple. We maximize sales for B2B businesses. Our biggest focus right now is selling in the US. 90% of our revenue is in the US. And we work with companies like Scale AI, Bamboo HR, Lovable, and many others. And so we are number one in our space today, right? We're a category leader, and Ramp Data says that we're within the same quadrant as companies like Anthropic and Snowflake and Salesforce. And so everything that I'm going to talk about is going to be grounded with real data. So let's start talking about winning customers in today's day and age. The first thing is that the rules just changed, right? Anyone can vibe code a product in half a day, right? So how do you build a product and how do you sell it in a world where anyone can build what you have, right? And so in my opinion, things really changed today, right? You needed to first build a product and then sell it. Now, I believe that you have to replace the service. You have to go work and embed yourself within a customer, work almost kind of like a forward deployed engineer for them, figure out the hardest problem that they can all solve and solve it for them. And that's your future product, right? And so the world has changed from software as a service to service as a software. And this is how you will build a massive company. So how do you do it? You find a niche, right? You pick a company, you pick a space that you're really passionate about. You go in, you go to them as a consultant, you sit down with them every single day, you work with them, you build their hardest workflows, you build the software, and then you help them as much as you can. And that's how you figure out some of the hardest things for them. I'll give you an example. A future founder who's a genius came and joined our company. He sat down with us every single day, worked on the hardest problems, figured out how to save us $10 million a year. It was an extremely hard problem to solve, and he built a software around this. And then he's going to find the next client to do that for, who is going to be similar to us. I'm going to talk now about how to hire the best. So one of the things that's really important that's going to drive success for you is how do you hire the best talent? You have to be very contrarian today, right? You have to make some bets, and you have to decide what are your non-negotiables and go with those. And so back in 2022, when we started the company, and then 2023, everyone was working remotely. We decided to do the opposite. You have to come in 5 days a week in office. We all work weekends, and that was something that was non-negotiable. 90% of the people that we would interview would not want to join us when they would find this out, but that's okay because we wanted to focus on just people who were going to grind. We were paying also 20% higher than most of the market for these types of people. We would only want to hire future founders, and we were okay with that if they would leave the company one day, because we knew that they were going to drive a really strong impact for us. And then the other thing is, a lot of people like to hire very experienced people, right? We did the opposite. We went in and we hired for what I like to call slope over intercept, meaning that you hire people who are a lot less experienced, still with some level of experience, and you train them, and you know that they're so smart and so hardworking that they will be in a few months better than anyone who has 5 or 10 years more experience than them. This, in an AI native world, has been working out very well. So this slide is a little more technical, but the whole thing is, how do you scale revenue without having to scale headcount? Over at Attention, we're generating a ton of revenue for the number of employees that we have, because AI is replacing a lot of headcount. So how did we do this? You define your sources of truth, right? So in your case, for example, if you're in sales, it's your CRM and your data warehouse. If you're in HR, it's your HRIS and your ERP. And so you make sure that your sources of truth are extremely clean, and then you build the layers of intelligence and action on top of those, and then the system works for you. You only have to update something once, you don't do it twice, and everything works for you. And so eventually, within 5 minutes, you end up doing work that would generally take you weeks and weeks of effort. And so the last thing is winning investors. Trillion is the new billion. If you're pitching $1 billion business, you've already lost. Investors want to hear about $1 trillion outcomes. A lot of people have seen this slide by Sequoia showing that basically, if you go after the software and services market, it's going to, the services market itself is a $10 trillion economy. So if you actually figure out how to replace an entire outcome, an entire service that is out there, and you own the outcome, you're going to build $1 trillion business. And so when you pitch investors, you need to have a very bold ambition, right? You need to have a clear vision, and you need to have very unique insights. What I like to call service as a software, you replace the entire service end to end. You own the outcome. For example, if you go to your customer and say, we're going to be responsible for driving all of your sales, right? We're not just selling you a solution that could perhaps grow your sales, but actually we will be responsible for driving your sales, then you own the outcome, and at that point you're going to grow faster than anyone, right? And that's what's going to give you that $1 trillion scope, because you are responsible for the outcome. And so a lot of the fastest growing businesses in the US today have been shifting from seat-based model to actually consumption-based model to now outcome-based pricing models, where you price for the outcome that you drive for the client, and you only make money if the client makes money. So just 3 things to take home, right? Customers, you have to go really deep. You have to sit down with them. You have to build things and figure out how to solve the solution for them, almost like a consultant, actually, which is contrarian. You build something that's so unique for them that you can then figure out how to start replicating it. The employees have to be really hardcore employees, very smart, hardworking people. You know, it's way more expensive to hire the wrong person than having an empty seat. And you have to build the right AI native foundation. And then, yeah, investors, really simple. $1 billion is not cool enough anymore. $1 trillion is the new thing. So own the outcome, own the future. Thank you. Any questions?
Les amis, est-ce qu'il y a des questions pour Anis? Hey, Janice. Pas de questions? OK.
Ouais.
Thank you for this presentation. It's hard for me to understand the first slide when you say when you said service before service software and software service. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, of
Please?
course.
Thank you.
So before in the old world, right, you just had to ship a software and figure out how to sell it, right? Now, the new thing, especially in the US, is to do almost consulting work for your clients, and you figure out how to solve the hardest problem. You don't come with a new software, you come with a way to solve things, and you custom build for your customers in a way that you have to figure out something that is so hard and unique that they will not be able to build it themselves. Even if they have really good engineers and really good talent, you figure out how to solve that for them, and then you create that as a software. Sorry? Yeah.
You make an edit first, deeply you understand the issue, and then you solve it to build a software solution.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Second question.
Hello, Anas. Pleasure. Well done today. It's a generic question, but I want you to talk a little about scalability. What are the biggest challenge for scaling? And how did you overcome those challenges to actually grow a solid structure, team abroad?
Can you repeat the beginning?
So just as a generic question about scaling. So what were your difficulties about scaling and how did you attack those problems?
Yeah, do things that don't scale, right?
Do things that don't?
You do things that do
Okay.
not scale, right?
Okay,
You
yeah.
do things that you have to go founder mode. You try to solve them yourself as hard as you can.
Mhm.
And then whenever your hands are bleeding and it becomes almost impossible to keep doing it, then you find someone who is better than you to take it off your hands, right?
Okay.
And so the old world, people would tell you scale headcount, grow as much as you can. Actually, AI now allows you to be way more exigeant when you hire people, right? Like you can still replace a lot of the, what I would call 1x or 3x type of work with AI, and you only wait until you have like the perfect person to hire that person, right? And so to give you an idea, today we're generating about like $400,000 per employee per year, right? Most companies do $50,000 per employee per year. And so my contrarian take is that you should not scale headcount too aggressively. You should really be tough on who you bring in, and until you find that perfect person for a role, you let AI do most of the work.
Merci beaucoup, Anis. يعطيك الصحة. Koutheir. Merci beaucoup, Anis. Et maintenant, on passe la parole à Koutheir Cherni.
Hello.
Voilà.
Merci.
CEO and founder de Guépard.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. It's pretty exciting to see all of this Tunisian talent. My name is Koutheir, and today I'm going to talk about humans and AI agents, which is pretty cool. All right. Cool. Well, first of all, let me present myself. My name is Koutheir, 27 years old, born and raised here in Tunisia. And I spend my days on one specific problem: how do we make machines and AI agents and humans work on data in a very, very efficient way? Cool. All right. So Guépard is actually a Tunisian startup that we started in my parents' basement, which was a couple of years ago. Now we're based out of San Francisco. We raised over 2 million in pre-seed funding. We're over 20 people split across 3 continents: San Francisco, Paris, and Tunis, obviously. We keep our R&D team here in Tunis. And we solve one specific mission, which is data collaboration between humans and AI agents. So first of all, let's actually identify and clear out what is an AI agent. We hear a lot of noise about AI, and it would be interesting to understand a little bit more about this technology, right? So an AI agent, by definition, is not a chatbot. A chatbot will just give you answers, but an AI agent acts on its own. You give it a goal, it will plan the steps on its own, it will understand the outcome that it should be delivered, and from there, it uses tools, data, and loops until it's done. So I have a question for the audience today. Who here uses ChatGPT or Claude? Can you raise your hand, please, for me? All right, cool. Nice to see a lot of AI native people. Nice. All right, so The first layer of collaboration between AI and humans is chatbots. So chatbots, you ask it, it delivers. You ask for information, it gives you that information, right? So this is the first layer, and this is unfortunately where 70–80% of the people fall into as a category, but we're missing what's the real value of AI today. The real value is not to use it as an information collector. And by the way, if you think about the human race, we went from books, so asking for information in bibliothèques, etc. And then we moved to Google, information on the internet, etc. And now we have chatbots, which is pretty cool because you can actually chat to it, right? So the next layer is agents. Agents, you just give it a task. It will understand that task and it will plan the steps on its own. So you don't have to explain every specific detail, you just have to explain the specific outcome. And now what we're seeing in San Francisco mostly, which is probably going to land in Africa and Europe in a couple of months, is autonomous agents. So autonomous agents, they spin up their own internal agents. So you ask it to deliver one specific outcome, and it will spin up multiple workers inside of it to deliver those tasks and those steps, right? Now what we're seeing is in the future, we will start delivering swarms of agents. So us as humans, as we moved through the enterprise scale and we started delivering more and hiring more and more people, we started managing people. Now in the next era of data and human collaborations and agents, we will start managing swarms of agents. There will be 40–50 agents that we will deploy to do our jobs for us. So this is where the ladder today is going. So we started with chatbots. We're now deploying agents, and from agents we started having autonomous agents that understand the outcomes themselves, repair stuff on their own, and fix stuff on their own. The next era of technology would be swarms. You are the manager, and you're just basically running a fleet of agents that will do the work for you, which is pretty exciting because that gives us time to enjoy our lives, right? Now the next era of swarms, getting there safely is the whole game. AI is stupid, whether we want it or not, so we have to deal with it in a very specific way. So in that sense, we've made collaboration easy before. When we started developing software across the world, GitHub is one of the best and most known tools that made collaboration effortless for code, right? So it gave us permissions, it gave us branches, it gave us a lot of new technologies to make that. And for people that used to work with a lot of numbers, like you, so cloud spreadsheets are the ones that gave that collaboration a real feel for us. You know, if you think about it, 20 years ago, we used to download a file, work on the numbers, send it through email, the other person downloads it again, and then sends it back. That whole piece of collaboration was solved through Google Drive, Google Sheets, Excel sheets, etc. So now we can all of us work on the same experience or like same numbers in a very effortless experience. Now this is where it comes for data infrastructure. In order to work with agents and humans in a very effortless way, we need to solve the data infrastructure problem. And that's exactly where we focus on at Koutheir. So as agents scale, the bottleneck becomes data. If you think about it, data sits in a server. A server is shared among people, and as people we can communicate to understand what everyone is doing, but through agents, an agent will run 50–100% faster than any human on Earth. So by that, with Koutheir, what we're basically doing is we're cloning big data sets in 6 seconds instead of 10 hours. And thus giving every agent the branch so that it never messes your data. So if you think about it, imagine giving ChatGPT an Excel of your finances. You would be scared that he will run those numbers wrong and he will make some mistakes. That's what we're trying to avoid on that data. So everyone gets his own copy of the data that he can play around with, he can experiment and mess it up without affecting the real source of data. So building safe agentic workloads. Today we're seeing a very big trend in the US, which is token spent or token maxing. So token maxing is creating a duopoly of OpenAI and Anthropic, where most of the enterprise budgets are actually spent on these providers. From that sense, we're now seeing a very big trend of moving towards local models and inference. Open source AI models are the futures. They will be self-hosted and running inference in your own environments. Sandboxes is another trend that we're seeing, where we deploy serverless and ephemeral environments for every AI agent so that it can run in isolated space and act without failing or impacting your product, your production, your data, or whatsoever. And then we use Gepard for that data sandbox as well. So from that extent, we can clone those data environments in a few seconds, give every agent, every PR, every CI its own run, and from there work with data and AI in a very, very safe experience. So what your job becomes in the next era is not actually doing the work, but delegating the outcomes, reviewing the judgments and understanding where these outcomes are valid or not valid, so that we as humans can focus on being more creative, more innovative, and focus on actually what really moves the needle and not doing boring, repetitive work. That's the real purpose of AI, and that's how AI should be used today. So in that sense, we set the guardrails, we delegate the outcomes, and we simply manage our AI agents to do the job for us. All right, we lost the... All right, so the next years, every engineer will run a team of agents. It will become a skill that we learn, just like we learned management. Just like in our university, we learned communication, we learned how to manage people, how to deal with people, how to solve problems. We will also learn how to run teams of agents. Management of agents will become a hard skill that we will learn to delegate, how to properly delegate the tasks, how to properly review the outcomes, and how to properly evaluate and promote to productions. From that sense, the moat will never stop at the models. The models will always be better and better as the race continues, but it will be how do we orchestrate it, how do we communicate between agents, and how do we run it safely. In that sense, thank you all for taking the time to listen, and I hope you enjoyed. Yes.
Est-ce qu'il y a des questions pour Koutheir?
Thank you so much, Koutheir, for your presentation. It's really inspiring for all of us Tunisians. I have one question about, it's about AI in general, but specifically about agentic AI. Have you thought of trying to incorporate it in Gepard in the future? And what's your take on agentic AI? Because I know there are a lot of debates about its ethics. And yeah, thank you so much.
Sure. It's actually very interesting that you mentioned that as a question, because in the last couple of months, we've been building our first AI agent employee that also manages his own AI agents. So this agent is actually doing or managing a lot of repeatable work for us, so that it takes care of specific tasks that we set in a very safe way that gives us a lot of time saved. So think of for example, doing market research, understanding the trends in social media for our marketing team, giving ideas for our social media posts, automating a lot of reporting for finance. When someone asks for a budget or a spend, the AI agent will automatically handle it, making sure that our customers, when they ask a question, that question is handled properly in a very, very safe way and added to the documentation properly, etc. Being an open source company means most of our code is actually available on GitHub and you can download it for free. We have to be one of the precursors, or being above or beyond the trend of how agentic workloads or agents in general are deployed. That means that if we're actually experimenting a little bit later than the market, we already lost as a company. We're a research company. We're building technology for the future. So we always take the risks, take the bigger risks that we can, and be as agile as we can, hence the Gepard. So be as fast as we can to fix those problems, understand the limitations, and actually develop software that helps other people onboard these agents in a better way. Any other questions?
Thank you for your inspiring presentation. So my question is, what's guardrailing? It seemed too vague. Maybe it's the constraint of time and you didn't specify. But that's my biggest concern. The constraints, what are what are they gonna be for agents? And you said that the last step is swarms, but actually the last step is AI agent controlling AI agents. So you are taken out of the picture, and that's also one of my concerns. Thank you.
Sure. Two different questions there. So swarms are basically you manage one management agent and he will deploy his own agents on his own. So if you think about the ladder that I mentioned, autonomous agents, you're already spinning up sub-agents like Cloud Code. When you ask it to deliver something as big as a task, it will actually run sub-agents. That phase, we're already in it in production. But when we mean swarms, swarms are basically hundreds of agents running in parallel without you understanding the operations. If you think about it metaphorically, think of a CEO. His vision is strategic. He doesn't know every single employee's job. He only knows or talks to the C-level, to the CTO, to the CPU, to the lead management or the leadership, and they will manage the operational work being done downstairs. So if you think about that specific architecture, we will have the same thing with agents. So swarms, you will talk to actually one agent, but he has context about hundreds of other agents doing work and communicating between each other. Now, when we mean guardrails or safety pretty much about agents, there are three different layers that you can tackle. First of all is the data. So never share personal data, never give right access to the agents, etc., etc., etc. But then there's sandboxes. Sandboxes are pretty much separate environments that you run those agents in, and they can spin up as many sandboxes as they can so that they can experiment freely, run iterations, and go back in time to fix stuff. And the third one is the actual soul.md file. So the guardrails that you put for the agent, who he is, what he's doing, the context about the company, etc. These three combined will make sure that your agent, even if he makes hallucinations or mistakes, those mistakes are controlled in a safe and separate environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Koutheir. Big up. Merci, Koutheir. Alors, on passe la parole à Aziz Hanafi pour Digla AI.
Thank you for the intro. I want you to imagine something. Imagine an earthquake just happened, or a tsunami, and there's thousands of injured people, there's a lot of rubble, and now let's go to the command center. In the command center, there's 10 operators. These 10 operators are controlling 10 different drones, planning waypoints, defining routes. Eyes are locked on a screen. They're trying to find every single injured people. Every second, every minute matters. Let's imagine another situation. The same earthquake, the same tsunami, the same natural disaster, that same command center, but there's just one guy. One guy, and he talks to the computer. He says, there's injured people in the perimeter, find them, inspect them, and give me their GPS coordinates. He just talks in English, French, whatever language, and then a fleet of 50 drones, 100 drones take off at the same time, coordinating, working together to achieve that goal. This is what Digla is about. Digla turns natural language to multi-drone, robust mission execution. As you may know, unfortunately, we don't sell Digla بالحق, we don't sell dates, we build drones. But yeah, this is what we do. So my name is Aziz Hanafi. I'm an MIT computer science graduate. And I'm the CEO and founder of Digla AI, which is a Y Combinator-backed startup in the fall of 2026. So there is actually something much deeper about Digla, which is not that we build drone swarms, but there's a huge interface shift today that's happening in the world of AI. Like usually, what is an interface? An interface turns what a human wants to what the computer does. It's a translation from what you want to what the computer does. And over the years, we've been trying to delete translation layers in the interface. I'll give an example. Like years ago, people memorized computer commands, and then user interfaces deleted that. Before we had the mouse, and now we have touch screens. But the big shift today is the interface change where you just talk in natural language. You just express what you want, and the computer does what it's being told. Degla is riding this wave of the interface change in the physical AI space with drones. And this is what we do. Degla is built around a simple idea. Once you've expressed your intent, the system owns the problem. You don't have to babysit the drones, you don't have to micromanage failures, you don't have to rewrite plans. Once you just say what you want, the drones just execute. Right now, our main focus is search and rescue. So we do public safety. You talk to the drones, you can tell them there's a little girl lost in a forest, find her as soon as possible, report her GPS location, or there's people drowning, I don't know, or like some natural disaster, and the drones will just execute. So search and rescue is the main focus, but because we lower the gap between human intent and mission execution, we can easily expand into multiple other spaces, such as ISR operations, inspection, surveillance, reconnaissance, border control, critical infra protection, and all of these different spaces. I'll leave you with like a test case that we ran a few days ago. A few days ago, we ran a drone test where we had 5 drones take off at the same time and trying to find injured people in a city. And the way our architecture is built is there's a master in the cloud, and every drone is a slave, and the master gives the commands to the slaves so that they fly and find the injured people. And we ran a test. We cut connection from the master to the slaves. The slave drones did not have internet connection anymore. And what happened is really surprising. One of the drones took off in altitude in the middle of the flight, higher than all of the other drones, and started behaving as the new master to the other drones. And this is very powerful because it shows you how much, if you have a reasoning layer on the robots, on the drones themselves, then it can be extremely robust to failures and extremely resilient in super complex scenarios. And this is what we are all about, building a resilient and robust architecture where you express your goals in natural language and the drone just expresses the mission. Right now we're building with drones, but very soon we could expand to swarms of robots, drones, aerial and maritime like robots, and you just talk to the swarm and they just execute the mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aziz. Any question to Aziz?
Thank you, Aziz. Very interesting. Yeah, I have one question. How it was done before your solution, the management of drones?
Like how it's being done right now, or okay? Yeah, so our initial architecture that we built is a master-slave architecture. It's a pretty simple master commander, and then the slaves just operate like listen to the orders of the master. Oh, in the market before how it's being operated. Okay. Today, a lot of the drones are like semi-autonomous. So usually what happens is, especially I'm going to focus on the search and rescue and public safety markets because that's what we're targeting. Usually there's an operator that defines waypoints. For example, he says, let's say an earthquake happened in a city, in like Marsa or something. He's going to define the waypoints, and he's going to draw the circles. He's going to draw the GPS coordinates to inspect. And then you're going to have a semi-autonomous drone that's going to be navigating and finding the people in those areas. The big shift now is that you don't even have to do the waypoints anymore. You don't have to the drones are not semi-autonomous, they're fully autonomous. And the bigger shift that we're doing is not only the drone being fully autonomous, but the reasoning and the inference is happening on the drone itself. So the drone can lose internet connection, it can be jammed it can have GPS jamming or whatever, but it would still be able to run, fly, and execute the mission because the LLM, the inference, is running on the hardware, and that's the main shift.
Another question?
Thank you, Aziz. This was really impressive. My question is, have you ever thought of detecting an emergency inside a closed box or like a place where it's closed, or is it only an exterior environment? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think right now, all of the tests we did were outdoor tests. So it's a big area. It could be like a desert, a mountain, even sometimes like in the sea. But a main important thing is basically navigating indoors, because let's say because now we have quadcopters, and let's say there's an earthquake that happened, and then you want the drones to get under the rubble or in some insides of the building or something. And this is something we can actually very easily do because of our tech stack. Because the technology we have, if a drone right now goes indoors, usually for GPS navigation is going to be very hard indoors because there's no GPS basically. And without technology, the drone will not be relying on GPS. What it will be relying on is the cameras and the onboard inference. It's going to be taking videos and pictures of what's around it, and then the onboard LLM is going to be like, okay, I don't know, there's like there's a t-shirt thrown over there, maybe you should navigate closer, see if you can find the person, etc. And then this is the main shift that we're doing, and yeah, we can basically do online navigation tests, indoor navigation tests.
Big up to Aziz.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aziz. So, alors, Asma ne pourra pas être là, elle a un imprévu, donc Chadat Fissoussa. On passe la parole à Nour Ghalia Abba, qui est CEO and co-founder de DigiHealth.
So hello everyone, my name is Nour, I'm the CEO and co-founder of DigiHealth. And usually I want to start presentations with questions, so I'm gonna go for the first one. Who knows someone or who is someone that suffers from chronic gastrointestinal disorders? It can be food intolerance, it can be the irritable bowel syndrome, it can be Crohn's disease, it can be anything that is impacted the bowel, chronic constipation, diarrhea, whatever. I think there are more in the room because it affects one person over 5. And it's the second reason why people are missing on work. It's a huge economical burden, and it costs a lot of money to the healthcare system. It costs more than 100 billion. It costs so much because we still have a problem. Healthcare still runs in snapshots. So all the other industries, if you look at them, so aviation, finance, or energy, have been continuously monitored for a decade now, but healthcare is still lagging. If you have a gastrointestinal disorder today, what do? You go to the doctor, it's only 15 minutes. They ask you a couple of questions about what happened, but then it's still a snapshot of 500,000 minutes that they are missing. Yeah. So they will ask you to run some tests. So if you have any other persistent problem, they will ask you to go for a colonoscopy, for instance, or they will ask you to do a stool sample. These are not things that you enjoy doing because these are very invasive, they are not continuous, and they are relying on subjective measurements. So this is also the complexity of gut health. So if you have any gut disorder today, it's impacted by a lot of things. It can be impacted by diet, it can be impacted by your sleep, it can be impacted by medication, it can be impacted by sports, it can be even impacted by your hormones. And everything that we are monitoring today is only relying on colonoscopy tests or on stool samples. These are not an indicator of what is really happening. So this is why we went and developed DigiHealth. So the answer is continuous and non-invasive. So I'm going to ask another question to the audience. Who has ever heard some sounds that are coming from the abdomen? We all heard them, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. So these sounds are always there. These sounds are an indication of how the bowel is functioning. And actually, this is what we are listening to. So we have developed a technology that is always listening to the sounds that your gut is making. So we are listening to what the gut is telling you, and we are adding to that data additional metrics, additional body vector metrics, such as HRV, HR, activity levels, but also contextual measurements such as toileting events, food intake, medication intake, sports, etc. And then we combine all that data together to have a more comprehensive overview of what the bowel is telling you, and not just snapshot. So at any point in time, you're going to have an an explicit objective measurement that is continuous about your gut health. So we're going from the reactive care to the preventive one. We are going from those snapshots to a more objectivized, personalized gut health. So now I'm gonna walk back a bit and tell you more about my story. So I graduated from a Swiss engineering school, and as a Swiss engineer, I went to the watch industry. And then I started listening to watches. So I was at Rolex, I was having a microphone on the watch, and I was listening to watches to detect malfunctioning watches. But then during COVID, which is a bit cliche, I decided to quit my job and to join a venture builder that is focusing on health tech because I was passionate by health tech. And then this is where I found my co-founder, who is one of the most reputable gastroenterologists in Switzerland. And he mentioned that frustration. He mentioned the frustration that he had looking at patients' data, but he also mentioned the frustration from patients. And then I said, okay, we hear some sounds that are coming from the abdomen. I have an expertise in sounds. Let's do something together. And this is where we reached out to another friend based here in Tunis, who is also a gastroenterologist. And actually, we started the first measurements here in Mongislim Hospital, and we published the first paper from Mongislim Hospital. And this is where we started DigiHealth and the whole journey. So it was 2 years ago, and this is where we're at today. So today we have more than 300 patients monitored. We have a couple of papers published, but we also have more than 10,000 hours of data that is labeled on real patients. And this is what we see. We see that we are able, only from bowel sounds, to detect if a patient is having lactose intolerant, even though they don't know it. So we can detect it early on. We can detect it even though they still don't have the symptoms. They are just genetically intolerant to lactase. And then we also see that the bowel has a different rhythm than our body. So we have circadian rhythm. This is how, for instance, a person sleeps, but also the bowel has its own rhythm, and we see those rhythms. Also, we can see the impact on medication, stress, defecation prediction for paraplegic patients. So if you're paraplegic, you don't feel the low part of your body, and you cannot know when you're going to have a defecation event. This is a tool to help those patients. And then we can personalize all responses, and we can also see if actually your bowel today is bothering you because of stress, or is it really because of what I ate yesterday? So this is what we did, but we have challenges. We are charting new territories. What that means is that we are discovering something that nobody did before. So we need to prove everything. And that's why we want to always be collaborating with the top-notch doctors or hospitals in order to prove that we are doing that. And we have been lucky because all our studies has been with those doctors. Why? And I'm going to finish with that. Why is it now possible to do that? It's because the sensor got smaller. So for instance, we don't have to have like a huge device on our belly. It can be a tiny wearable that you wear, that you forget about, that is telling you everything you need to learn and everything that your bowel is telling you. So now it's the moment that we start listening to our guts. And thank you all for the attention. And I'm looking for questions.
Let's hear about the public now. So, any question?
How and where can we get it? Just ask me, I'm gonna give you one. I have it right here.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is it for patients or for doctors? Who's supposed to do all the monitoring? Or is it just the device for this?
So it's for both. We have two offerings. So we have the offering for the patient where you can monitor yourself on a daily basis. So you have your app and you can see everything that is impacting your bowel in real time. But we also have dashboards for doctors so that they can also have the full reports of what happened in the last 6 months, for instance. So you have two offerings for that.
Thank you. My question is, it will replace coloscopy or not?
I don't think we are going to replace colonoscopies. I do think that we are going to be complementary to it. We're going to give you everything that colonoscopy is not looking for.
Thank you, Nour. Thanks a lot. Big up to Nour.
Let's go.
Yo. علوي علوي
Ah ouais? Ah. Ok, ok, ok.